Hi, everybody. We're coming back here. We are talking about the 1950s just a little bit further. We're going to keep going into that cultural aspect, but we're going to tie it into kind of the foreign policy. Where does the big picture in all this really meet? So, the first thing to really think about or that I want you to think about, is this little story that I've sort of made up for you. So, imagine we come back to school tomorrow, and at the very beginning of class, one of your teachers comes in and hands you a note, and the note is a slip that tells you that you've been found guilty of stealing something, that you got a DT, right, a detention slip that says that you've been caught for stealing, for theft, right? It's going to be a severe penalty from the administration, but you know you haven't done it whatsoever. The note doesn't give you any proof. It doesn't tell you who gave you this. It doesn't tell you who is saying that you stole anything. All it tells you is that you're going to be suspended and to pack your things up and to go home. That you're going to be suspended. You're not going to get any sort of credit for any work that you're missing. You know you're going to miss some tests, some quizzes, and projects and stuff like that. So you're going to get hit really hard academically, right? Maybe as the quarter's ending. However, after you get all that and you get kind of this letter and you get all worked up, you get angry, you're about ready maybe to storm into the administration's office, the vice principal's office. The same teacher calls you into the hallway and says, "All right, if you tell me the name of the student or students who helped you, you'll get no punishment." Right? So if you give them the names, then you'll be totally good. Right? Maybe in that situation, right, there's a couple different things you might be feeling, right? It might just be pure unbridled anger. It could be fear. You could be upset. It could be just pure confusion. Maybe you'd lash out verbally at that teacher. Maybe you would try to storm into the administration's office. Maybe you would deny it, but you think, well, I didn't do anything, but I could say somebody else and then I would be off free and I know I didn't do anything, so then it wouldn't be any bad thing on me. But also, is there anybody that you can throw under the bus? Um, who would you throw under the bus? Like, how would this whole thing kind of be worked out? So there's a lot of things that we can think about, especially when people are put in crisis scenarios. And maybe you're a fanatic like me, and you love kind of crime shows, like loved crime documentaries like Making a Murderer, right? And we see kind of maybe the investigation techniques and how scary that can be for a lot of people. And sometimes they'll lie, not intending to lie, but they may lie in order to try to save themselves, or especially when the information comes from an authority figure, it may cause them to do some things that they wouldn't normally do in a situation where they're cool, calm, and collective. So we're really going to talk about this sentiment in a larger construct. Really, how do people act when fear gets involved? What impact does that emotional side of your brain, especially fear, right, paranoia, really impact the way that people behave, number one? Or how does fear in society impact the freedom that people have? So think about one thing that's going on obviously right now as we're making this video, is there's the fear of the pandemic, right? The fear of the coronavirus, COVID-19 spreading, and that everybody could possibly be infected. And how is this changing the way our society normally functions? Schools are being shut down, businesses are being shut down, sections of the government are, and there's quarantine sections in different places in our country and even around the world. So how are these changing the way that we live our lives? It's a lot of comparisons we can bring in to really our subject today. Instead of a biological issue, the fear in the United States was communism spreading everywhere, it catching on and it destroying every part of what America stands for. It gets so bad that we actually create a federal government organization, a part of Congress that is specifically designed to investigate this issue of Soviet spies and espionage, called the House of Un-American Activities Committee, right? Or HUAC, if you put all the first letters of all of these words together. And HUAC is designed to really try to rid our government of spies, and we're trying to find them. We fear that there are people selling our secrets or inside our government that aren't loyal to us, that are loyal to our enemy, and they're going to bring us down from the inside. This whole general fear in this country is sometimes called the Red Scare. The reason it's called the Red Scare is when the revolution in Russia happens, that the communist government takes over in the 19 teens around World War I or the early 1920s, the color of their flag is red. Also, any communist country that we represent is associated with the color red. Red meaning danger for us, and it's kind of the color that we use to denote that idea of fear, danger, danger, danger. Um, an example of this fear of communism, of this Red Scare being enacted, we can see coming right after World War II. In World War II, the US government created something called the Manhattan Project. The Manhattan Project, if you remember, was America's plan to build the atomic weapon during World War II in secret. To end World War II with Japan, we actually used 2 atomic bombs on the Japanese islands to try to get them to submit, and they do. The rest of the world sees this power, they hear of it, but we don't share any of these secrets with anybody else. And so 4 years later, after World War II ends, the Soviet Union, which allegedly would have never heard of this before, miraculously in 4 years just creates an identical weapon as we do. There's no way that's possible. And if we're not telling anyone outright, if our federal government didn't share any secrets, that means that some of the people working on it must be disloyal to us and must be loyal to the Soviet Union. There must be spies in this country at the top level, the highest possible level, the most secret organization we've ever had, and they got spies in that department. So what happens? This man you're going to see in this photo right here, his name is Julius Rosenberg. Julius Rosenberg worked on the Manhattan Project. And what happened was he took these secrets and he wrote them down. He took them home, right? He copied down this information on how to build the bomb and the schematics and everything. And then his wife took this information and she was supposed to translate it and send it to the Soviet Union. So that's our friend here, Ethel. All she was told is to take this information, translate it, and send it. She didn't really know the scope of it or what was going on or what it was for. And despite having much hard evidence that either of them truly did anything, these were the claims, despite having any true evidence that this happened, both Julius and Ethel, this husband and wife couple, was put to death by the electric chair. So these people being executed in our country for fear of being spies without hardcore 100% confirmation that they did it. This is the level of fear that we're getting to. And after discovery, in our minds, of this espionage, we then decide to branch out and look for where else are there spies in our government. Maybe there are more that we just haven't uncovered yet. They are going to get so bad that we're going to create a loyalty review board that fired any government workers for what they called reasonable doubt, right? So reasonable doubt means if you just have you have a really good feeling, you don't have proof or evidence that they did it, right? If you feel that they're not loyal, if you fear they might be spies, if you fear that they might be doing something shady, but you don't have any proof that they actually did it, you can still fire them from these government positions. So it continues to build up, and build up. It's going to take its high point in something we're about to talk about right now. Right? We have this fear all across the country of individual citizens fearful about what communism will do to our country, what tomorrow is going to look like, that burning American flag and everyone dying tomorrow, chaos. You have people talking about how your neighbor might be fishy and that they are trying to sell your secrets. So watch on your neighbors. There's this fear that you can't trust anyone else around you. And at the end of the day, this hysteria is going to drive us to make some pretty maybe unintelligent decisions, but we're going to be very fearful of anything that happens. And so as a result, we're going to be taking actions left and right to try to find these spies and rid them, convinced that they're there, even if we don't have full proof that there is. So really, why all this hysteria? Why this fear of communism now? What's going on? And it all stems from what's going on foreign affairs wise and what we've seen so far. The Cold War is a huge, huge issue. It's still going on between us and the Soviet Union, this fear and this fight between democracy and communism. They're stockpiling massive weapons, things called ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles that you can shoot from one continent to another. So our weaponry is increasing heavily, and nuclear warheads are increasing all around the world. We're able to fire them longer ranges, we're able to fire them more accurate, and all these countries are stockpiling this weapon. So there's a fear that there is going to be a nuclear war. And just like how the Japanese Americans are treated in World War II, we're fearful that there are traitors and there are spies in our country that are trying to bring us down. We also create different capabilities from launching secret ways like submarines that actually act as missile launch pads in the middle of the ocean. So there's all these different ways that we're building up our military, and people see this in the world around them. They see this in the politics of the stockpiling of weapons, that doom and destruction is really a very common part of their world. And also, the other thing to think about is we think of our world as very flat when we look at maps, but think of it more like a globe. You don't just have to go east to west and fly around the globe that way. You can go right over the top of the world, right over the North Pole, and you can shoot these missiles, right, to the Soviet Union, but they can shoot them back at us. So we're in very, very close proximity that we can point missiles at their major cities, and they can point missiles at our major cities as well. But really, what does that mean? If we both have major guns pointed at us, if we both can nuke each other, what does that mean? If we shoot a missile, they can shoot a missile too. That there is fear that at any moment that an all-out war can break out. It's not so much that we have a leg up on them, because they have equally as destructive technology as we do. They have atomic bombs, we have atomic bombs. We create something even more powerful than an atomic bomb called a hydrogen bomb, right? It's like the comparison would be the blast radius of an atomic bomb would be about 2 miles. A hydrogen bomb would be 20 miles. Vastly, vastly more powerful. But then a year later, the Soviet Union creates one of their own as well successfully. So we are going back and forth technologically, but also destructively. If we fire an atomic bomb or a missile or something at them, they can fire something equally as powerful back at us. So if we start putting these big stakes on the table, we could lead to really the annihilation of the human race. And because of that, Americans are going to start to react to that. We see a lot of these duck and cover drills, which we've already talked about, becoming much, much more prevalent. We see people building their own fallout shelters to protect them. There are entire bunkers underneath homes to protect them in case there's a nuclear bomb attack, stockpiles with all of these canned goods in case that a nuclear fallout does occur. And this starts as early as the beginning of the 1950s, and people being very fearful that this is a reality. This is part of the normal part of their lifestyle. And because of this, people will build their own. You can buy makeshift one, you can build plans for one, but this is very, very common. They're not going to be super cushy, but they try to set up a kind of a fallout shelter that if you live in these, that you can live for time on end, that you have a radio down there, you have some sort of a way of using the restroom, that you have some sort of food, and stockpiling. Canned goods become so important because they can last for very, 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 very long times, and people literally stockpile in case there is a nuclear disaster. People are all boarded up underground. These are not super spacious and cozy, but they're trying to protect themselves in case that there is a nuclear fallout. So this becomes a whole new business in and of itself. It becomes a normal part of American culture. This becomes kind of expected, that everyone is ready in the case that there is a nuclear attack. This is just another example. Some of them hide them in the shrubs, so they cover up the outside of this giant metal tube in shrubbery, and they carve it into the ground so that it can't be hit by bombs or people won't know it's there. It's kind of like a hiding space. They have beds and everything where entire families are expected to live in case there is a nuclear attack. And this is just one photo inside one of these bunkers, these hangouts, with all of the canned foods you see over here, the radio, the small beds. It's not super cozy, but it's meant to survive in worst case scenarios. Once again, just another picture of a family, but these are all examples of what these things could look at. Now, with all of this on the minds of Americans, that they're paranoid that this could be their future, that what do they have to do? They have to try to prevent something like this from happening. They're going to be looking for any discernible features that they can pick up as they're sifting through this information, as they're trying to find out what is actually happening in their country. Where are these spies found? The person that's really going to lead this conquest is a man by the name of Joseph McCarthy. He's a name you really, really, really want to write down. Joseph McCarthy is a political official. He accuses over 200 State Department workers of being communists, so people that work for the Secretary of State. And his big campaign and conquest is going to go over about 4.5 years, moving on communism, attacking communism, labeling it as this big existential threat to the entire nation. This red menace, as you see down below, that there are spies in our government that we have to root out. He's going to act a lot like that teacher from that opening question that we sort of talked about, that he's going to accuse people of a crime. He is going to try to convince them that there was something terrible that happened. He's not going to have a lot of hard evidence, but he's going to be aggressive and he's going to threaten them with very, very severe penalties. If you're accused of being a communist, people won't want to be associated with you because they'll be fearful that they could be accused too. They won't want to come to your businesses. People will lose their entire jobs. Hollywood actors and actresses are accused of being communist and they're going to be blacklisted, which means nobody will hire them. Nobody wants them to work with them. They want to be as separate from them as possible because they fear that they could be labeled as communists. It will go after every part of government agencies and public society. It will get to a point they even call in Walt Disney and accuse him of being a communist spy, making cartoons to pollute the minds of the youth here or help the communist government in their own country for making certain cartoons. So this whole term, this whole era is called McCarthyism, which is named after Joseph McCarthy. So the Red Scare or McCarthyism of the 1950s is this really aggressive hunt for communists in this country. It was popular for the time being when it was going on, but it really loses steam at the end. But it was popular for a time being because people were fearful and they wanted answers, and this was their solution. The problem is he never actually found a single communist spy in this country over this 4.5 years that he was actively going after hunting for these people. But this paranoia became part of American culture. You saw it in advertisements, you saw it in cartoons about doing everything about what it really means to be a patriot, what it really means to be an American, and why we never want to be called a communist and where the communists are, how to find them, and that they're so dangerous to our lifestyle. So it's this real fear that these communists are a threat to your own life. You can see this on the right here. That's actually a picture of him holding up his list and proof that he allegedly has that communist spies are infiltrating the U.S. State Department. And on the left, you have a little cartoon. And if you read that, right, it's the nomination of an ambassador to Russia. That he's using all this ridiculous information, these claims that eventually the American public is going to get really, really tired of McCarthy. We have documented evidence that this man is planning a trip to Moscow, so he must be a communist, that we're fearful of what's going on. A lot of cartoonists are going to be very skeptical of what's happening, and you can see that this cartoon is very critical of McCarthy because, of course, the ambassador to Russia for the United States, right, a peace negotiation person, is going to Moscow or going to Russia. Right? Not because he's a communist, because that's his job, but the people in the back, you see them kind of rolling their eyes like, oh my God, this guy's going again, right? And how they really critically look at McCarthy as the years go on. He's really going to lose steam. He's going to lose popularity, but it's going to be super popular for a short period of time. Overall, what's crazy to think about with this entire McCarthy movement is that he never found a single communist in the US government. He had different pockets where the movement was popular, but his own voters didn't really support him. His approval rating was maybe around 50%, but never really more than that. And so he was a very controversial figure in US society, but still, nonetheless, the American public was really pushing for questions to sort out and find these communists. It's going to die once Eisenhower really takes over. And the way that Eisenhower phrases it, he says, I'm going to give McCarthy just enough ropes that he can hang himself. He's going to allow McCarthy a TV spot to publicize a national televised example of these hearings that people have been hearing about trying to find communism. He says down below, and this is a little paraphrase, I'm not going to get into a peeing contest. I think you can figure out what the other word would be there, pissing contest with a skunk. About what I'm not going to get in the fight at contest with this guy. I'm going to let him dig his own grave. And what's going to happen on this TV televised spotlight? McCarthy is going to try to convict U.S. generals of being communists. The nation is watching this. As number one, attacking the U.S. Army is a huge, huge thing that people would never do. The disrespect towards the United States Army and the military is something that in this country is deemed so unacceptable. The military is very revered in the United States, especially post World War II. And the nation is going to see really what the McCarthy attacks were all about. They were aggressive. They didn't really have fact hardcore supporting, and they were more emotional based than everything else. And really, McCarthy is going to lose his steam after this point, and people will start to question what's going on and really the paranoia that sets in. Maybe think about the Salem witch trials, that it's almost a witch hunt. You're looking for something that's not there, but you're so desperate to find an answer that proves your claim that you're really grasping for straws. You're really reaching at nothing here. So the last thing you should do now for my classes is you should check out the worksheet that I sent you. You're going to want to take a look at the cartoons for the McCarthy era to really get a grasp on what the American sentiment is as this really goes sour. There is this huge wave, this witch hunt to try to find these communists in this country, but it really yields no benefits. But the big thing I want you to pay attention to is consider how is the Cold War affecting American life at home, right? This fear of communism, this paranoia is driving a lot of these decisions. And you're going to take a look at some cartoons at the end of this time period to really try to get at the author's meaning. Remember to look at like the titles, any text that's given. If they label anything, that's probably super important. Don't just get at what the literal message is, what they're printing. What do you think they mean by these cartoons? So really try to think through it. If you have any questions, drop some comment sections down below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Peace.